Ladies and gentlemen, the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, General David L. Goldfein.
Well, good morning. So a few weeks ago when this was on the calendar, my staff walked in and told me, hey sir, unfortunately you're not going to be able to make it because there's a hearing today. And I told them, I said, you want to go through life without many lifelong regrets. And what you need to know is that if I miss this ceremony, I'm going to regret this for years to come. And I'm not sure what they did, but Dr. Lucy, I just want you to know the United States Congress moved their hearing so I could be here. And I really can't tell you how honored and humbled I'm here to be with Dr. Lucy, the Greene family, Team Moody, and the incredible community of Valdosta to join this celebration of a man that we all love and admire. For today, we celebrate the fourth P that Georgia boasts of: peanuts, peaches, pecans, and Parker Greene. We all know, he was always an airman at heart. So it's an honor as chief to represent his airmen, who are direct beneficiaries of Parker and Dr. Lucy's unshakable advocacy, limitless passion, and in many cases his personal and limitless supply of nuts and Vidalia onions. I remember the first time I met Parker and Dr. Lucy. I was working at ACC headquarters at the time, and Team Moody came to the headquarters for a visit, and Parker and Dr. Lucy came by the office and we chatted about Moody and the operations here, and at the end of the meeting we took a nice photo together. And then later in the year I got a Christmas card with a collection of photos, and there was that picture. And then I got a call from my brother Steve, who sends his regards, and he was at the Pentagon at the time, and he said, well, now you have a shot at senior leadership because you made the annual Greene Christmas card. And for many of the GOs in the crowd, we can all acknowledge that that is actually better than a definitely promote #1. So Stevie and Jeannie, they send their love, and so does Dawn, who's home taking care of her parents today and certainly wishes she could be here. We have few national strengths as powerful as our community partnerships. Because while we recruit America's sons and daughters, it's our communities that give our families a home, where we live and work and play. And there's no better example of that warmth and that comfort than Valdosta. So as Chief, I want to thank you for being the gold standard for taking care of our families. A few weeks ago, I was honored to represent the Air Force at the funeral of President Bush. And during the ceremony, as his granddaughters were talking about him, and at the Capitol Rotunda as I watched America pay tribute, as well as looking at all the folks who lined the streets, I think, like all of us, I reflected on what a life of service well lived really means. And it made me want to be a better man, a better husband, a better father, and a better friend. And how great to see General and Mrs. Welsh, who leads the George Bush School in their name at Texas A&M, another great leader who makes us all want to stand taller and be better. Like George Bush, Parker Greene makes us want to be better men and women, to live up to a higher standard, to love and care for airmen as much as he did, and to give with no expectation of getting anything in return. And as Chief 19, General Norty Schwartz, pointed out, Mr. Parker and Dr. Lucy were a remarkable pair. Two loyal, long-time, and enduring champions for our Air Force and for our airmen. And as we get older, we tend to joke that, we have yet to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. But one of our Air Force civic leaders at a Hill Air Force Base, Miss Vicki McCall, jokingly said, when I grow up, I want to be Parker Greene. She first met Mr. Parker 27 years ago as the original members of the ACC Commanders Group. And he became one of her mentors, flying out to Utah to school her on how to brack-proof a base. And Miss McCall claimed when folks wanted to know the latest about Moody, they didn't go to the Secretary of Defense or the Chief of Staff of the Air Force, they went to Mr. Parker. And no matter how long he knew someone, he kept each relationship alive. In fact, he gave a whole new meaning to Nut Delight for then Staff Sergeant Andrea Thacker, who's now one of your civilian airmen, Miss Andrea Jenkins in the 23rd Wing Public Affairs Office. When she served in uniform and deployed overseas, he'd send her a box of South Georgia Pecan Company's assorted nuts. Show of hands. How many of us have had the same? Because I know when I was deployed for 2 years as the CFAC, a cheer would go up across Al Udeid when I brought in a box of nuts to share at the KAOC, just a little slice of home. But it didn't stop with me. Dawn, who's like so many of our spouses, was enduring her end of a 2-year deployment, got her box of nuts as well. A little slice of Georgia, delivered from the heart. Dr. Lucy, I don't know if you have any idea how much these packages of love have meant to so many of us. In my office, I have an original candy bomb delivered by Brigadier General Gail Halverson during the Berlin airlift. A message of hope from America delivered by Airman. And right next to it, I have a bag of Georgia peanuts delivered by another great American, a little slice of love. History doesn't always repeat, but it does rhyme now and then. You know, reminiscing of the past, now Major General Chad Franks, a former wing commander here, shared a couple of his top Mr. Parker stories. You see, Parker had been trying for a while to get a sidewalk along the road from Valdosta to the wing. And one day he's visiting with the governor, and as they're driving in, they saw a lady pushing a baby carriage along the Parker Greene Highway. And without him missing a beat, he says to the governor, "Well, isn't that a shame? A military spouse that has to push that baby along this very busy highway." And the next day, the sidewalk was funded. His squadron drop-ins were a frequent occurrence across the base. General Franks remembers when the 38th Rescue Squadron decided they wanted to do something a little bit different for PT. Mr. Parker went to the Guardian Angel Squadron where they showed him their self-help project, a basketball court. And when he saw what they were trying to do, he went to Valdosta State University and asked for a backboard and any other equipment that was needed. And because the squadron deployed frequently to Afghanistan, he wanted to make sure they could keep up with their jump shots. So he went to talk to the manager at the local Walmart. And as he was walking out with about 10 basketballs and 2 nets, the manager just stopped him and said, "Mr. Parker, you're going to be paying for all that, aren't you?" And true to form, as only Parker Greene could do, he says, "Nope, it's your donation to our airmen." And out the door he went. But of course, he returned later with a few photos to show his airmen playing hoops with a little slice of love from Georgia. He was also known to pull airmen out of some really rough spots. Chief Master Sergeant Paul Burgess, Moody's former command chief, remembered a fire that destroyed the house of one of the wing's deployed airmen. The family was rendered homeless, but the morning after, Mr. Parker delivered $500. And by the end of the day, he'd secured a place for the family to live, stocked the place with food and supplies, all procured and donated from the local community. And when that airman returned from the deployment, he and his family were able to deal with that crisis with level heads because Parker and Lucy made sure they were taken care of. Brigadier General Tom Kunkel, who's also in the crowd today, shared that during his tour, the 81st Fighter Squadron, which conducts combat training for our Afghan Air Force pilots, wanted an old school Coke fridge, the ones with a see-through window to store drinks. So Parker and Dr. Lucy searched high and low across many counties, and sure enough, they found one. And General Kunkel mentioned, even though that just seemed like a small detail, like when the Greenes would drop off Easter baskets to all the base leadership, for him and for the kids, it was a huge morale boost. Pericles said, what you leave behind is not what is engraved on stone monuments, but what's woven into the lives of others. And so now it's my distinct honor on behalf of several generations of airmen who've been the beneficiaries of Parker and Dr. Lucy's love and passion to present the Department of Defense Distinguished Public Service Award to Dr. Lucy Greene and her family, whose actions reflect such great credit upon themselves and our beloved United States Air Force. So thank you so much for allowing me to be part of a celebration of life of an incredible man who makes us all want to be better men. May God bless this nation we love, and men like Parker Greene, who teach us all what a life of service, well lived, really means. Thank you.
Thank you, General Goldfein.